to really be true to the teachings of Christ, one must think of our faith as a verb. Jesus is telling us then about, yes, we must love thy neighbor, but let's define and be clear about who is our neighbor.
And so when we think about justice, let's also remember all the prophets spoke about justice. They spoke about it, Proverbs 31:9. Speak up for the poor and the helpless and see that they get justice.
And when Congress passes a law to restore reproductive freedoms, as President of the United States, I will sign it into law.
3 bills signed into Minnesota law.
One is long, they're all long overdue.
One of them protects people seeking or providing abortions.
We are witnessing a full-on attack against hard-fought, hard-won freedoms and rights. Take reproductive freedom. Well, Tim and I have a message for Trump and others who want to turn back the clock on our fundamental freedoms. We're not going back. We're not going back. And so let me say about Tim Walz, he has shown up to stand against these attacks long before he stood on the stage with me. After Roe was overturned, he was the first governor in the country to sign a new law that enshrined reproductive freedom as a fundamental right.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. Yeah. Thank you, but I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. You still need help from the boss. We need help from the boss. That's what happened. We need help. Right? Yeah, we need help. It's all right to say it. Now, they'll criticize me for that. How dare he say that? How dare he say that? No, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'll say it. Somebody said to me the other day, you're the most famous person in the world by far. I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. They said, yes, you are. I said, no. They said, who's more famous? I said, Jesus Christ. I'm not taking any chances. I'm not going to have an argument. Hey, I'm not having any arguments. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll give it, I guarantee. And let me look up and I'll say, and it's not even close.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the BCV channel. I am your host, Pastor SaikoWoods. Please do the following. Please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification at the bottom of this video. That way, whenever I go live or post any content for you, the viewer, you'll be one of the first to view it. Also, if you'd like to support this ministry financially, first and foremost, thank you, all of you, those of you who consistently, faithfully support this ministry and also love life and marriage with the Woods with your tangible expressions of love and support. If you'd like to become a body lifer, you know how we do it. Body lifers are those who support this ministry outside of their local support to their fellowship or church. And if you'd like to make this ministry a part of your regular giving, there's no obligation. You can start and stop at any time. There's no particular amount that you must have in order to support this channel. You can just do so by clicking the donation links below. But I would encourage those of you, as I mentioned before, that support this ministry through Super Chat, through YouTube. Since YouTube have been demonetizing my content for the recent videos that I have done regarding Trump or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, or any of the political issues or social issues that I have addressed here on this channel, you know how they do that. They'll flag you. They'll give you a copyright strike, as they've done for me when we've dealt with the you know what. Yeah, that. But I would encourage you to not support this channel through Super Chat. Please utilize the links below instead of using Super Chat for two reasons. Number one, there's no guarantee that I will receive those gifts that you support this ministry and this channel through. And then number two, they tax it. And then number three, we don't receive it in the expedited fashion that you, the viewer, the supporter, submits it. So just wanted to encourage you to do that as well. BCV merchandise, you can support the BCV merchandise. You can do that by clicking the link below as well, and you can support our ministry through purchasing merchandise. The link is up, available for you, the viewer, and we do appreciate that. I am excited. I am happy to have a special guest here on my broadcast. I will be bringing him on shortly. I was able to do, by God's providence, find some videos and content. And when I started watching this gentleman's content in his videos, I was stuck and I was glued to it. And I'm pretty sure after this interview, you'll be glued and stuck to his channel as well, too. And I'll put his information below at the bottom of this video as well, too. But let me just give you a quick introduction and bio of who I'm going to be bringing on. This individual, his name is Colin Heaton. Colin Heaton is a historian, film and TV consultant, author, writer, director, and producer. He served in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Marines and was a professor of history at American Military University. He has been working as a consultant for film and TV, specializing in documentaries. He is currently developing historical documentaries, feature film, and series projects. His last major project was working with Dale Dye and Marilyn Walton as a technical consultant on the World War II limited series Masters of Air for Kirk Sadusky, Tom Hanks, and Steven Spielberg. He's a specialist in military subjects, available for consultation to directors and producers, and working with Michael Drelberg of 10th Legion Pictures and Tanmoy Rana, as well as Patrick Kilpatrick of Uncommon Dialogue Films. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I introduce to you my special guest, Mr. Colin Heaton. Colin, thank you so much for joining and being a part of the BCV broadcast. Sir, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you on. Listen, I mentioned to the audience earlier how I stumbled upon your channel, but tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and what made you do this work that you have been doing, I believe, for Americans and those who love the truth.
Well, after the military, I went to college, then graduate school, postgraduate school, began teaching. Once the liberals infiltrated hard during the Obama administration, I found myself out of work and began writing my books full time. And about 3 years ago, 5 years ago, Mike Joberg and I connected. We wrote a couple of screenplays together, one turning one of my books into a film, which is now awaiting budget production. And another screenplay. We've worked on a bunch of stuff. And he finally decided one day to start a YouTube channel. And he said, hey, we should take a lot of these crazy stories that you write about and put them on YouTube. And after a couple of years, it started really paying off. So we've expanded to cover all areas of history, periods of history, political, military, social, and it's done pretty well. We broke 500 and I think 12,000 subscribers now.
Wow! And how long have you been doing the? How long has your channel, Forgotten History, been up and running?
I think this October will be 3 years.
3 years. Wow. So you've gotten a huge following just in the 3 years. Why do you think?
So I'm pretty sure it's about 3 years. Yeah.
What do you attribute the growth and your subscriber base to? I mean, it's been 3 years. You got over 500,000 subscribers. Do you believe it's because of people just desiring truth and looking for objective information, despite the propaganda and the lies that we see that are basically being forced down our throats through the mainstream media?
I think so. I think the interest many people have in history in general, but the political subjects we covered kind of dispel a lot of the myths that people have in their heads about certain people, certain processes. And they're not, since they don't really teach history in school for the past 30 years, people aren't getting history until they go to a university. But with the socialist Marxists running higher education, you're getting a slanted view of history. So we provide what I call an unadulterated, clear, precise view of subjects and people that most people have never heard of before. And we're using, secondary, primary sources, and we're giving an objective evaluation of these people. We're not really passing judgment on these subjects or these people. We're giving the facts and letting people decide what they want to believe. We're not trying to convince or convert anyone to our line of thinking. We're just trying to throw it out there for people to have information and evaluate it.
Yeah. So the fact that you said that though, Colin, because I would have to agree with you. I mean, I'm a stickler for the truth. I'm a stickler for objective facts and information. But there seems to be an attack on the truth. I would even look at it from a political standpoint and slant. There seems to also be an aggressive, and I would even say illegal and unlawful attack against conservative values or people that are just looking to have an independent thought without the attacks, without the slander, and so forth.
Well, I agree. I mean, just take a look at the last 3.5 years of the Biden administration with the FBI. Rather than chase down terrorists and collect illegal immigrants for interrogation, along with other bureaus, they're busy, spying on Catholics. They're infiltrating churches. They're eyeballing ministers. They're trying to find political uh, subterfuge where there is none. And the platform they're using is totally antithetical to what they claim to be a democratic process. They don't even believe their own propaganda, because if they did, they wouldn't do what they do.
Right. I agree. I mean, I'm pretty sure, Carly, you've heard the term recently being used, lawfare. We've seen that against President Trump, who I hope and pray will become, the 47th president of the United States. Should have been the 46th one, but I believe, and you will probably attest to it, we all know how that happened and what subverted that. But for the sake of not being flagged, we can't really say the things we want to say. But I believe those of us who know the truth, we sought out the information. We know organizations like Project Veritas. We know even organizations like yours, and maybe even mine from a grassroots level. We've tried to present the truth and information and facts. But as you said earlier, people attack the truth in such a way. I would call it cyberfare now. Lawfare is what they've done against Trump and any other political opponents that the United States government or those that have that type of power would levy against those who have an objecting or who have a different view regarding the results of elections, regarding our political processes, regarding our rights as American citizens. And I believe that cyberfare now is being used against those of us, again, who are conservatives or Christians or those who have an independent thought and are willing to stand for the truth in these days, in these times.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Project Veritas. I know James O'Keefe. I mean, and he got FBI rated
Yes.
because he exposed a lot of stuff that was going on. But and when he refused to publish anything regarding the Biden girl's diary because he couldn't corroborate it, just the fact that he had his fingerprints on it was enough to have a raid. Uh, None of that, that wasn't even legal. And so many other factors. I mean, right now you're talking about YouTube. I mean, that is a Google-owned company, and George Soros is all over the place on this. But people like that, they, as long as you toe the line and don't cross over the line and expose their un-American, sometimes even criminal activity, you can get away with a lot of stuff. But the moment you start throwing things out there that they don't want the average person in the population to know about, that's when they put the boot down on you.
Yeah.
We did the January 6th video that was extremely detailed, very detailed. I'm talking about talking with people involved in the investigation. One man in particular who became a friend, Bill Carrico, submitted his investigation to Congress, and it was sent to the House of Representatives to be reviewed so they could challenge the elections in several states, including Georgia, which is a big one, but
Yeah.
Pennsylvania as well. So we proved everything. We proved it. And now, just 2 weeks ago, they came out and said, yeah, the Georgia election was rigged. Trump actually won the state. We said this for years. And then they shut the video down because we showed some of the video most people hadn't seen of the ballot boxes being brought in at 3 a.m.
Right.
and the counts being done, but
Right.
they wouldn't let anyone, the investigators, when they got a court order, when Giuliani wanted to see the ballots, they would let them see photographs of the ballots, but
Right.
wouldn't let them see the actual ballots, which is like the Secret Service taking a photograph of a counterfeit bill, but not looking at the counterfeit bill.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they were totally behind all of this with the fake COVID shutdowns that ruined the economy, ruined children's education and lives, destroyed families. Everything they did was a liberal, socialist, Marxist, Fauci-based attack upon America to take control the only way they knew how. They couldn't take control with weapons, but they could take control with propaganda and utilizing the federal government to enforce it, and pressing and coercing local governments and local police forces to also do the same thing, like Waltz did in Minnesota.
Right. I mean, if you recall, there have been even those who were defenders of Trump. I believe, what was her name? Sydney, the lady that
The
was.
lawyer, yeah.
Yeah, so she basically was forced to recant. Even Trump's lawyers, one of Trump's lawyers was forced to recant their statements. I mean, the bullying, the again the threats of prison time, all for people to say what they saw was not what they saw. So when we see ballots being harvested, when we see illegal activity being done in the dead of night, and I'm pretty sure you remember too, Colin, when you were watching the election on in November of 2020. I remember my wife and I sitting in our living room, in our family room, and we were watching the election results. And then all of a sudden, we hear people in the news and telling everybody just to go ahead and go to bed. The votes are not going to be counted right now. We're still tabulating votes, and the next thing you know, the next morning, Biden wins. And then what makes it so absurd to me, in my opinion, that the narrative that was being spun was that Biden had more votes than Barack Obama, Colin.
Not
Astounding to me.
not only that, but in Georgia alone, Biden was down by
That's right.
160,000 votes,
That's right.
and by the next morning, he was up by 13,000.
Yeah.
And none of the ballots that came in that were so-called mail-in ballots, none of them were for Trump.
None.
The mathematical probability of that happening is less than being struck by lightning 20 times at dinner. And now we know it was a fraudulent election. Now we know that it did happen, and it happened in several states. And Arizona is one of the
Michigan
great.
too.
Michigan, Wisconsin,
Yeah.
Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Well, New York and California are given there.
Oh, yeah,
I
but
call
yeah.
the, I
Battleground.
call I call those places intellectual graveyards because
Pretty much.
that's where the brain dead go to live.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so you can't even in New Jersey, you can't look at those states because they're long-term Democratic holdouts.
That's right.
But then again, you're looking at the numbers of the millions of people fleeing those states coming. I live in North Carolina.
Mm.
I mean, you'd be amazed. You can't throw a rock without hitting a Yankee or somebody moving into my state
Wow.
and buying a house or building a house to escape and evade the socialist cesspool that they lived in.
Right. And that they caused too.
Well, yeah, that's the point too. I mean, these are the same people who for decades vote. I mean, I think the entire population of Delaware must have been brain dead upon birth because they kept electing Biden. Either that or they were just massively cheating in every election to keep him in the Senate.
Right.
And I met Joe Biden. I mean, a lot of the politicians who were famous, I've known them, I've met them. And I have my own personal opinions about several from my own personal
Right.
interactions,
Of
not
course.
just what I've learned over the years. But yeah, it's such a tragedy that the Democrats are doing the exact same thing the Bolsheviks did in the Soviet Union before it resorted to violence.
Mm. And yet they want to talk about democracy. They want to talk about freedom. They want to talk about us being able to have our rights protected. I mean, it's just all a farce to me. What I want to do, Colin, I wanted to play a few video clips, get your thoughts about it, have some dialogue on it. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I really wanted to hear your thoughts about these things because I believe we're living in a time where there are not many of us that are standing on the wall and are standing for the truth. But it's refreshing to know when we come across the paths of those like yourself and me and others that are speaking out. And so hopefully it will encourage others as well when they see this kind of conversation and dialogue with other fellow Americans and people who just want to have our rights and God-given freedoms protected and to do what we need to do to make sure that what we saw and what we witnessed in 2020, pray to God that it doesn't happen in 2024, but we can't just sit back and do nothing about it. And I believe when we watch these things that go on in front of our faces and we see the lies that are being pushed and being perpetrated, we have to speak up. And we can't just sit back and say nothing and do nothing because these people will not stop at anything that they're doing insofar and in so much as there's no pushback of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, they'll try anything. I mean, Kamala Harris is a prime example of somebody who will do and say anything to remain in power and get elected. And
Yeah.
if I could do a show on, I could stop her campaign in 24 hours if I could do the show on all the things I have in a folder about 2 inches thick on her career in California, let alone her career in the Senate.
Wow.
I could destroy her. I could stop her campaign almost immediately. And I could have people scratching their head going, because there are three types of people who would vote for Kamala Harris. Those who don't know anything about her record and have been duped into myopic vision. Those who know about her record but think that she still has promise as a progressive. And then there are the collective brain dead who think that what she's doing and Biden have done are really good for the country and they want a Marxist socialist workers' paradise.
Man, you said a lot, Colin. You said a lot. And before we get to these clips, what is the reason why? What is the reason why you have not been able to produce the videos that like you produce for Biden, you produce for Trump, you produce even people like LBJ. I was watching the series that you did on LBJ, and some of the things I remember, and some of the things I like. Wow, he did that too. So why is it about when it comes to Kamala Harris that seems to be an off, do not touch, hands off warning or approach to that?
I think because the January 6th video, they killed that. They demonetized it and killed it right away. I mean, not right. I mean, it was up for about three months, maybe 4 months. And then finally they caught on to the fact that we were exposing the criminal activity. So they killed it. The Biden crime family 4-part video, they began shadow banning that one after episode 2 or 3. People can still find it, but you have to dig for it. In fact, I have to actually give people the link on YouTube to see it because you can't find it in the menu.
Yeah.
And I think that what's going on is that, and Michael and I discussed this. In fact, we just discussed this last week. We talked about it. Is that we think that if we put one on Kamala Harris, which it would be a hit job, but it wouldn't be an intentional hit job. It would just be using her own record against her.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
he's concerned that after all the strife we've had with YouTube, and he's been in direct contact with someone at YouTube to discuss what they call an administrator.
Right.
And so basically, he told me that we can't run the risk. They'll probably just close down the entire channel because, I mean, she is the current righteous one. She's the anointed and appointed. So,
Yeah.
she can do no wrong.
Process, without going through the democratic process, without being, nominated as they would have done in normal delegations and conventions, right?
Right. Well, look at 2019 when she was running in the primary to try and get on the ballot as a presidential candidate. I mean, she's from California, and she got less than 0.8% of the vote from Californians.
Yeah. I mean, and she received not one delegate when she was in the primaries for Iowa. I mean, that's why she had to cancel her campaign. She wasn't getting any funding. It was just amazing to me. All of a sudden, she rises to the top after they put Joe Biden out to pasture and put him down, metaphorically.
She's the DEI appointment. DEI is what they live by. I mean, if you look at the entire Biden cabinet, he had a cross-dressing, transgender luggage thief.
Yep.
Handling nuclear waste. He's got Anthony Blinken as Secretary of State, who is about as qualified to be Secretary of State as Stevie Wonder is to drive NASCAR. Then Then you have, Kamala Harris, whose record as a prosecutor, DA, and attorney general is so atrocious that there's no way they could let that record be exposed. And I have all the information, all the stuff she did, doing criminal activity as well, by the way, federal and state.
Yeah.
Then you take a look at some of the other clowns. Look at Buttigieg. He was the mayor of a small town, and he couldn't even fill a pothole. Now he's in charge of national transportation. And people wonder why stuff gets choked up in the Walmart lines and why trucks can't get where they're going and why things are in such bad repair. It's because they put a blind man in charge of directing traffic.
Yeah.
The whole cabinet is made up of people who would never succeed in the business world if intellect and ability were the requirements for the job.
And the funny thing about this is that Biden prides himself in his DEI hires, and I'm pretty sure you recall people were trying to raise this issue, become a racial issue by saying that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. Well, I have a clip we're going to play it later on that Biden himself said that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire. It's like all you have to do is just play the receipts. You don't we don't have to make any of this stuff up. These are your words. These are what you said. And one of the things that they'll say comically is that the internet never forgets. nor does the internet ever forgive, because once it's out there, it's out there. And it may take some digging, it may take some research, but when you unearth these statements and unearth these people in their own words, and I'm pretty sure, Colin, when you was watching the impeachment trial with Trump that they had in 2020, 2021, the lawyer did a bang up job. I mean, my goodness, all he did was just play their videos and play their statements in their own words. And what else could you do other than say, yeah, this is what y'all said. This is what you said. This is what you did. You're trying to twist people's words, but you made the same statements in the same context, but now you're trying to incriminate and really politically assassinate and physically Donald Trump.
Well, that's true. I mean, everything that they accused Trump and the Republicans of doing, they've been doing for years.
Yes.
And it's all about just distraction. It's about deflection. And I get really amused when I see Biden up there. And by the way, most people may not know. And the people, I really feel sorry for the people who watch MSNBC, CNN, and some of these other liberal networks.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting news. They're getting fed propaganda lines fed from the White House podium.
I agree.
But one of the things that I find really distressing is the fact that, Jim Jordan and Comer, we now prove, they just proved my video number 4 on Biden. $35 million, a large percentage of that from China, Romania, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, China. I mean, all these countries pouring money in to get political access to Joe Biden. And here's the funny part. Joe Biden committed what could be considered treason because at the time he was taking the bulk of that money from China and Romania and Ukraine,
right,
and other locations. It was funneled through Hunter into the 23 different LLC Corp bank accounts. Joe was getting his money. His brother was getting his money. But see, Biden was vice president at that time when it started, which means that he violated not only his oath of office and the Constitution, but he effectively committed intellectual treason against the United States, because that meant that he was leveraged by foreign governments and therefore was compromised. But they tried to bury that, and we exposed it in our video series.
Yeah, and I remember watching that as well too. And also, I was he also had presidential records when he was not the president; he was the vice president. So he did not have presidential immunity or authorization
even worse than that. He started stealing those records in 1972.
Yeah, when
he was a senator. He was a senator.
Yeah,
and he had no. Let me tell you, I've been in my military period. I spent 4 years in Crystal City, Pentagon. I dealt with classified documents. Okay, and one thing I can assure you is that no human being on the face of the earth, I don't care if he was a 4-star general or an agency employee, I never knew of anybody walking out of a skiff or a secure room carrying any classified documents. You have to steal those documents to get them out. You don't just carry them out. You don't do that. It doesn't work that way. You read them in place and then you memorize them. And if you need an official copy, they make you a copy, and then there's a chain of custody on it. And then it's labeled classified, secret, top secret, or whatever NATO top secret or whatever the classification level may be. And then it goes through a chain of custody to where every time that document lands on a desk, someone signs for it and you know who saw it, you know who has it, and it goes right back to where it came from.
Right.
The only way that stuff ends up in his garage is if they were stolen.
And yet he's still walking free, and Donald Trump is going to be sentenced on the 10th of September.
Yeah, for crimes that were not crimes.
Exactly.
And in fact, that will never survive appeal. The Supreme Court's going to slap it down harder than a redheaded stepchild.
Mm.
They're going to take it. Because, first of all, what he was charged with were initially misdemeanors on the business side of the house, but those had expired by statute of limitations. So then Alvin Bragg, decides he's going to convert those into felonies, trying to wrap that into the hush money case, which, by the way, both parties signed an undisclosure agreement, which is perfectly legal, so there was nothing illegal about that. Cohen paid the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels, and they're trying to say that, well, Trump told him to pay that $130,000 as part of the NDA, which is not illegal, as hush money. Cohen's own attorney was going to testify, but not allowed to testify, that Cohen's email, and when they convened the grand jury against Trump, he gave over 400 emails between he and Cohen about Trump. And in those emails, Cohen specifically stated, I made the payment, but I didn't even ask him to do it. I just made the payment and just wrote it off as an expense. So Trump didn't even actually know about the payments until later, but he was okay with it.
But the media, well, of course, the mainstream media, which I call the lamestream media, Colin, would have us to believe that, hey, Trump is guilty, which I find rather odd because, correct me if I'm wrong, people loved Trump before he became Republican.
Oh yeah, actually, in fact, he was heralded by Jesse Jackson.
Sharpton?
Hell yeah, I think even Al Sharpton. I think even Louis Farrakhan gave him a kudo at one point in time.
And Oprah loved him too.
Because Oprah loved him because, he did a lot of good. He put a lot of money into creating vocational programs for inner city youth in New York. And he started some of those programs. And a lot of those kids went on to get engineering degrees or become apprentices for businesses. A bunch of them he hired to work on his construction sites.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of good for a lot of people. But the day he came down that escalator and said he was going against the Democratic Party, that was the day that the knives came out.
That's right. That's right. Colin, let's go ahead and just jump into this. I didn't want to, keep it too long, but I'm definitely enjoying this. I'm going to have to bring you back on again another time when we're able to talk more. But I want to get your reactions, sir. I want to get your reaction to some of these clips. I'm pretty sure you've seen it before, but I'm pretty sure my audience would love to get your reaction since you have so much information that you can convey, and maybe even some more insight to what we know is a lie that the media is trying to present as truth. So I'm going to play about 3 clips of Kamala Harris on the border, illegal aliens, and also whether or not she's going to deport them. So let's go right into it.
After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades. The Border Patrol endorsed it. But Donald Trump believes a border deal would hurt his campaign. So he ordered his allies in Congress to kill the deal. Well, I refuse to play politics with our security, and here is my pledge to you. As president, I will bring back the bipartisan border security bill that he killed, and I will sign it into law. I know we can live up to our proud heritage as a nation of immigrants and reform our broken immigration system. We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border.
This is a show of hands question, and hold them up for a moment so people can see. Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants. Okay.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation. Can we keep the hands up so we could see them? The Obama-Biden administration deported more than 3 million Americans. My question to you is, if an individual is living in the United States of America without documents and that is his only offense, should that person be deported? Should someone who is here without documents and that is his only offense, should that person be deported? Senator Harris.
Well, thank you. I will say, no, absolutely not. They should not be deported. No, absolutely not. They should not be deported. No, absolutely not. They should not be deported. And I actually, this was one of the very few issues with which I disagreed with the administration, with whom I otherwise had a great relationship and a great deal of respect. But on the secure communities issue, I was Attorney General of California. I led the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice in a state of 40 million people. And on this issue, I disagreed with my president because the policy was to allow deportation of people who, by ICE's own definition, were non-criminals. So as Attorney General and the Chief Law Officer of the state of California, I issued a directive to the sheriffs of my state that they did not have to comply with detainers. I issued a directive to the sheriffs of my state that they did not have to comply with detainers. I issued a directive to the sheriffs of my state that they did not have to comply with detainers.
Your thoughts, Colin?
She's a liar.
Tell me how you really feel.
She's a hypocrite. She's a fraud. And when she talks about this bipartisan border security bill,
yeah,
it was. I read the damn thing. There's nothing secure about the bill. It doesn't secure the border. All it does is hire more border agents to process more illegals and situate them in sanctuary cities at taxpayer expense. There's nothing in there about completing the wall, which they said they would never do.
Right.
There's nothing about deporting people who have violated federal law by coming across the border, by the way. Nothing in there about deportations. There's nothing in there about even running background checks on people. And 85,000 children smuggled across the border. They lost track of them. So she must not really give one damn about the welfare of children. She's talking about secure communities. Well, let me tell you, the only secure communities in this country are those with their own citizens armed to the teeth around these major cities and border cities that are being infiltrated en masse by human wave attacks of illegal immigrants, many of them cartel members, and a lot of them with a lot of bad intent. So if Kamala Harris is going to talk about the day one after she gets elected, she's going to secure the border. Okay, Kamala, 1, where have you been for the past 3.5 years?
Right.
Kamala, 2, what did you campaign on in 2019? Kamala, number 3, you talk about issuing non-detainers on your sheriff's departments and your city police in the state of California, establishing basically a sanctuary state is what she did. She doesn't believe in deporting illegal aliens because, well, if that's the only crime they committed. So if I rob a bank and I give the money out to an orphanage, do I still get a pass because I did good with the money? I mean, that's my question.
But she also wants to do away with ICE. Matter of fact, she considers ICE to be the KKK. She compares it to the KKK.
Yeah, she did, and then she wanted to abolish ICE, and she also wanted. And by the way, where's her talk about when Biden ended Title 42, remain in Mexico? When Biden, she campaigned on building no more border wall, which was being very effective, by the way. 571 miles of wall were built under Trump, but the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi fought him every inch of the way. He had to take those funds from the Department of Defense, and they tried to impeach him over that. But he called it as the national executive. He said it's a national emergency situation for national security. I'm going to appropriate those funds to secure the border from a foreign invasion. So he took the federal funds, which by direction he's allowed to do.
Absolutely.
So he did it. He was building the wall. So anybody who listens to this, if you are even thinking about voting Democrat, ask yourself 3 simple questions. All these Democratic leaders, and I use that term loosely, all these Democratic leaders talking about amnesty for all these illegal immigrants. Well, okay. First of all, how many of the liberals do you know have invited an unvetted illegal immigrant to live in their home with their children?
Right.
The second question I would ask you, if they're going to give, and they want to, they've said this openly, if they want to give all these illegals Social Security, free medical, and nothing's free, it's taxpayer funded, by the way, If they want to give all of these people lodging, health care, education, and make them qualified for Social Security when they've never paid into it, your Social Security will be dead in 2 years. Okay. And if you paid in your whole life, well, I hope you've got a second job and Walmart hires greeters. Um, Another real problem you're going to have too is the rising crime rate. You notice how these Democrats never discuss the rapes, murders, kidnappings, DUI kills. They never discuss the crimes committed by the people that they want to keep in here as Democrat voters in the future.
Right.
They never discuss the negative. They never discuss the bad. They always discuss the rainbow promises of we're a nation of immigrants. Well, yeah, you stupid cow, but we're a nation of legal immigrants.
Facts. And I think that's where the problem, because I really believe that there's a lot of intentional miseducation on the part that's giving it and on the part that's receiving it. Some people just don't want to know the truth because they're stuck in tradition so long to whereas now they have to change their worldview and view. You saw the press conference that RFK did yesterday, where he publicly, I can't. The Democrat Party is not the party that I remember or recognize anymore. I would go even further than that, though, Colin. The Democrat Party I think it has always been corrupt. It has morphed into more and more corruption. I mean, the 13th, 14th, the 15th Amendments were not agreed upon by any Democrat. It was Republicans that pushed those amendments into law. So when I hear that, I mean, I appreciate RK for saying that, but the Democrat Party had been corrupt from its inception. I mean, hello, KKK. I mean, technically speaking, that's where it came from. So, but hearing this now, you see that it is so far left that you even have now Democrats that have been Democrats for decades now saying, well, wait a minute now. I mean, I don't hold to this. I don't hold to that. I don't hold to the sexualization of my children. I don't hold to this gender, affirmation of 62 or 52 plus genders and all this kind of stuff. So now they're now starting to jump ship and starting to come over to the side of where it's sensible and I would even say right thinking to have a conservative view. If you value family, if you value freedom, if you value small government, if you value the right to defend yourself, if you value the fact that you want to educate your children, because don't you find it kind of ironic that they believe in freedom to kill your baby, but not freedom for your children for you to decide where your children to be educated. That's hypocritical and ironic to me.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest thing too. Teachers unions in this country should be abolished, and there should be a federal referendum to get rid of them. Because when I see, and I have friends, I mean, I have my girlfriend's daughter's a public school teacher, but when I see these teachers unions, and I see this Randy Baumgartner, and I see her, parroting her idiocy. If they really cared about the educational welfare of children, they wouldn't oppose private, parochial, or charter schools.
That's right. That's right.
But they oppose them because those are not centers of indoctrination. And if more kids go to those private schools or charter schools, they're not getting taxpayer money
at all.
And that taxpayer money goes into the teachers' unions. It doesn't go to pay teachers better. It goes to help fund democratic causes.
That's right.
And people, when you're sitting there writing your check out once a year to pay your school tax, just remember where the money's going.
Instead of the money following the kid, they want the kid to follow the money in these public school systems.
Yeah, and the Democrats want to set up a printing press in these schools to print the money. They have no concept of fiscal responsibility. When you watch Kamala Harris talking about all these benefits of giving $25,000 of federal money to first-time homebuyers, well, first of all, that means every single taxpayer in this country is paying for that person to get a starter home.
Right.
The other problem is that economically it would never work anyway, because what you've done is you've socialized people into a business commodity that is strictly reliant upon capability and availability.
And if you think about it, also when you bear it down to like you said to the bare knuckle and brass tacks of things, who pays for all of this? We do. The illegals not paying a dime. I mean, and you've seen the stories where these illegals have gotten $13,000, $5,000 in cash, $13,000 in food stamps, and now the black community, Colin, are now screaming foul. I'm like, you should have been screaming foul when you were told decades ago that these people don't care about you. And what we're seeing now, we're seeing the slow displacement of the black community in these Democrat cities like Chicago, New York, so forth, right? Now they're seeing that, hey, the Democrat Party don't care about us. Well, hello, they never did. They never did. They're bringing a new batch of people in that they know are going to vote Democrat, and they're going to do it illegally because now they're given rights that they never should have received in the first place.
Well, it goes back to history, and being a history professor, I'll throw this out there because I know it's true. Remember, after every revolution, the government that takes power no longer needs the revolutionaries.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because the revolutionaries who won the revolution soon begin to realize the cause they were fighting for was a lie. So they get rid of the first generation of revolutionaries and start indoctrinating their children as the second generation to believe the lie. That's what the Democrats have been doing ever since Lyndon Johnson started the war on poverty with the Great Society.
Right.
He destroyed the black family. He destroyed poor families. He didn't do them any favors.
Right.
And the hypocrisy of the liberal Democrats goes all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. But if you look at Lyndon Johnson in the late 50s, when he was in the Senate with Robert Byrd, the KKK recruiter, the Kleagle, if you look at Byrd and Johnson, both Democrats, they vetoed every single Republican bill that wanted to give civil rights, voting rights acts. They fought Brown v. Board of Education. They fought all of that.
All of it, yeah.
But only after Johnson saw his popularity starting to drop because of Vietnam did he feel that he needed to take a corrective course and then say, well, you know what, I'm going to listen to Martin Luther King and I'm going to listen to these guys. And I'm going to go ahead and throw out a charity program that will help make the black population and poor white populations believe that we care about. He didn't give a damn about anybody. He just wanted votes and wanted perpetuity for the Democratic Party. That was his plan. And the end result is what we're living with today. You have generational welfare, which is ridiculous.
And
I mean, Ben Carson said it best when I was talking with him back in 2016, because he and I gave speeches back to back. I followed him and gave a speech at the Tea Party convention. And we were just talking with my son was there and Max, and we were just talking. And he said, you know, welfare was the greatest destroyer of the nuclear black family in this country.
Right. I mean, we were better off. Our people were better off, Colin, during the days of Reconstruction and Jim Crow. The black family was intact, even though they had less than nothing, but they had the values and they had the ideals to take care of themselves. Versus now, what you see, one parent households in the family versus two parent house. I mean, now I'm a father of 6 children, and it's rare to see a mother and father in the home. In the black community, in the black family, and it shouldn't be rare. We shouldn't be seen as exhibits, you know. But unfortunately, it is, like you said, because of because of LBJ's policies, and actually there was a commission report, and I'm pretty sure you remember the name. I forgot. I think what was it, Robert? He was a Democrat. But he gave a commission report regarding the black family and said within 20 years, if we don't change course and how we are helping the black community, all we're going to do is set them up for destruction and set them up for their own demise. And I forgot his name, but I think his first name was Robert, but I forgot the last name. But
I know the report you're talking about. I can't remember the guy's name either right at the moment, but yeah, you're right. I mean, first of all, what they wanted to do was take the black voter and put him on an economic plantation to where the government was the socialist provider. And as long as you kept voting Democrat, you kept getting your check. That was the drug. The drug was the welfare check. There was no upward mobility offered. There was nothing resembling intellectual or educational stimulus until later. And people don't even, and most people still do not realize that since its inception in the 1830s with Andrew Jackson, the Democrat Party has always been against the rights of blacks until Johnson changed it for political reasons. But the fact that you still have this war on poverty that's supposedly ongoing. When Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933, by 1936, there was no poverty in Germany.
Wow.
And you know how he did it? Very simple. He forced everyone to work. Everyone had to have a job. There was no social welfare. Okay, I'm not saying you should emulate Hitler on all things, but he did what was needed at the time.
Right.
And there was no welfare. Everyone worked. Everyone had a job. And if you didn't have a job, couldn't find a job, guess what? Like Jesse Ventura, when he was governor of Minnesota, he found you a job.
And look at where we are today.
And also, that was the purpose of that was to keep the nuclear family together through employment and housing.
Exactly. Let me ask you this question, because I remember I was telling you about the beginning of your video series of the least and most corrupt. What made you come up with that title, least corrupt and most corrupt?
Michael Joberg and I had a headshed meeting on the phone, and we just talked about it. And we thought, well, we're going to let's do some presidents, let's do some heroes in American history. And then it evolved from viewer comments saying, well, what about Lincoln suspending habeas corpus, Lincoln being considered one of the worst presidents because he violated, American citizens' rights, and people like that. So I thought, okay, well, let's do a series on most corrupt, where we allow people to determine who is and is not most corrupt. That's the name of the series. But when it came to Trump, I thought, well, wait a minute. Everything they said about him was a lie, proven to be a lie. So let's do one on him called least corrupt.
That's good.
And we took a lot of bullets downrange on that one.
I bet you did. Oh yeah, it caught my attention because I knew it to be true what you were saying, and I'm pretty sure you didn't even scratch the surface on a lot of the things that Trump did, not just for a particular people group, but for every people group. I mean, when he was in office, when he was president, everyone thrived in those 4 years. But I'm pretty sure you've heard people accuse him of being a racist and accuse him of being misogynistic and accuse him of being homophobic and all this thing, but particularly being a racist, which I said at the beginning of our talk. He wasn't considered a racist until he decided to become Republican and embrace conservative values.
Right. Well, why isn't Joe Biden still called a racist when he was opposed to busing, school integration? He was opposed to all of these things that the so-called Democrat progressives claim that they're paragons of. When the Republicans were pushing for all of this, Byrd, Biden, and all these other clowns, Strom Thurmond, who changed his opinions, he switched over. And Byrd, to his credit, Robert Byrd did change his opinion, and he did swing over to a more lucid, moderate tone. But Biden was still in that collective, but he gets a pass.
Right.
Trump has never at any point in time ever denigrated anybody because of their race.
Never. And I remember now, this is the same Joe Biden that was on the Breakfast Club when Charlemagne had asked him about coming back and told him he had more questions. And so Biden infamously said, well, if you have any questions whether or not you for me or for Trump, you ain't black. You would have thought all hell would have broke loose within the black community and would have rained down on Joe Biden in that statement. But he's so used to insulting the black population and the black community, they did just take it. But let Trump say anything. Let Trump say black jobs. Oh, black job. Well, wait a minute. Bob Johnson said black job. Bob Johnson was the CEO of BET. He talked about black jobs. Other people within the black community talked about black jobs. We all know what a black job is. It's not being racist. It's being factual.
Yeah, well, like I say, the hypocrisy of the left knows no bounds, and I'm pretty much done with them. I'm actually consulting to a couple of entities right now that are working within the Trump administration. And one of my friends, a retired two-star general, was in the Trump administration. And and his book comes out in January, which is going to be very enlightening to people when he talks about his life, career, and his several years in the White House with regard to policy. But yeah, I'm just I'm sick and tired of the hypocrisy, and what bothers me the most about people is Americans in general are pretty damn stupid. People say Americans are bright. I'm like, no, we're not. We're a collection of idiots, and the reason we're stupid is because we're basically trained to be that way.
Yeah.
Educationally, public school, all the way through universities, you're not trained to think anymore. You're not trained to think. I was, but I was fortunate. You're trained to accept whatever they throw at you. And if you challenge it, your grade suffers. Okay. If you don't parrot the party line on a term paper, I was a professor. I saw it all the time, not with my students, but I saw other people complaining. So right now we're suffering from a blanket of intellectual dishonesty being thrown over the fire of the future, just smothering out everything.
What do you think in our in the last few moments of your time? What do you think? Well, first question is this, and I know it's going to be a rhetorical question, but I'm going to ask this for the sake of record. Should Kamala Harris become president, would she be the most corrupt president?
No, Biden is.
Biden is. Okay.
Yeah, she's just the most incompetent.
Okay. So that's going to be, you're going to have to sneak that into another series then, Colin. You got to do a series of most incompetent presidents.
Well, if you don't get shut down or hit by a car in the crosswalk, I'll do a show with you on all the crimes that Kamala Harris committed when she was in office in California.
That sounds good to me. And we probably going to be sharing some of the same notes, because we know Jamal Truelove is one. We know Cherie Peoples is another, and a whole plethora of other people that pretty much, if they're able to come out, they'll be sharing their stories as well too.
Well, hell, if she becomes president, we might be sharing a jail cell.
Yeah. I'll take the top bunk.
All right, you got it, man.
Yeah, listen, I want to play one clip, and it's what you've heard before, but this was in her DNC acceptance speech, and and then Trump is gonna come right behind her and bring truth to the lie. But it's her statement regarding the January 6th riot. I'm gonna play that, then Trump will come right after that, and then get your thoughts on that, and we'll wrap it up. Let's go.
All right.
Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself.
Down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. Lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard, to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see whether Republicans stand strong for integrity.
Seems to me, Colin, that it was pretty clear. That didn't sound like riotous speech or insurrectionist speech to me.
It wasn't, and they knew it. And I would like to ask Kamala, who I call Camelback. I would like to ask Camelback, what about you supporting the burn, loot, murder riots with Antifa during the 2020 Summer of Love, when 600 plus events took place where there was arson, There was vandalism, shoplifting, attacks upon citizens and police, destruction of a federal building and a police station in Minneapolis. And then you started a bail fund to get domestic terrorists out of jail, and they ended up killing a couple of people, including Captain Robert Dorn in St. Louis. So where were you during this great concern about public safety? Okay.
Right.
Where were you when it came time to establish a permanent footprint when you were a senator to put parameters upon how far can you take a protest? Okay, you had the media behind you. You've got idiot clown shows from CNN with burning buildings behind them, and they're discussing about how peaceful the demonstrations seem to be. I could only imagine if Donald Trump was standing next to a garbage can fire roasting a hot dog that they would say that it was a massive arson raid. So I have no respect for her. I have no respect for the Democrats and anybody well, first of all, if you believe it, then you need therapy. But if you support it, then you need to move to a country that supports your Marxist ideology. And there are about 4 or 5 on the planet I can give you directions to.
Kind of last words. What can we do as Americans, law-abiding citizens, people who appreciate and value freedom, value conservative values? You know, myself being a Christian, I know what I'm called to do. But just from a grassroots perspective, what can some people who may be watching this interview, what can we do? What can they do to get involved and to help others to see the insidious and the intentional deception that the mainstream media and people that claim to love this country are trying to perpetrate against us?
The best way to preserve the country is make sure that when you vote, you properly vet the candidate that you're looking at. If the person has anything other than a patriotic track record of supporting the Constitution, then they're not the person for you. I don't care if he had or he or she had an affair or had a DUI. Did they support open borders? Did they support giving illegal immigrants access to taxpayer funds? Do they support the fact that two genders seem to be confusing to a liberal? Look at those people, and when you go to cast a vote, think about you're not just casting a vote for this election. If you have kids or grandkids, you're setting the pace for what they're going to experience later. So you need to think further into the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Colin, let people know how they can reach out to you or contact you, know a little bit more about your channel. I'm going to put your link on under my video description for people to watch your videos, check out your content, and get to know you more. But let people know how they can find your content and your information and your videos.
Yeah, you can just go to www.forgottenhistory.com, type my name in, Colin Heaton, bam, you'll pull up about 600 videos that we have. My website is, until I change it later, is www.heatonlewisbooks.com. I'm going to change that to reflect my current work in the film industry. But yeah, I'm not hard to locate. I mean, I'm all over the internet, so you can just punch me up that way too. You'll probably see some things from the liberals that they've posted against me. But then again, just take it with a grain of salt because, that's just what they do.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to reach out to you, and I'm glad you were gracious with your time and reaching back out to me. What made you, matter of fact, what made you even respond? Because some people will look at my stuff and say, "Man, I don't know why this guy came on his channel to talk to him. Doesn't he know he's a fire starter? He's controversial. He tries to destroy people's name and all that kind of stuff." If you've done your research on me, but what made you decide to come on here?
Well, the fact that you wanted to discuss the truth about Kamala Harris and her campaign and the discrepancies between what she and Trump see as their visions for the country.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Colin, you and I need to stay in touch and keep in contact with each other, man. I'm going to definitely be reaching out to you more and leaning on you for that information as well. And anything I can do to help, I want to do that. And please, let's stay in touch.
Yep, let's stay in touch, man. Thanks.
Take care. Take care now.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, y'all. That was Mr. Colin Heaton from Forgotten History. Go to his channel. Go to his website. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. It is very informative. His content is top tier, top notch. When I started watching it, I was blown away. And I had to reach out to this gentleman. Had to reach out to this fellow veteran as myself to have him on the broadcast, and hopefully you've been informed, you've been encouraged, and you've also been enlightened about what is going on in our country. And y'all know me, as Christians, we should be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. God has called us in this world to make an example, to make an impact, to be salt and to be light in this world. We're not just to sit back and do nothing. Get involved as much as we can, and I echo what Colin said. Vet these people, especially those of you in the Black community. A lot of the ignorance and unintentional mistakes that are being made, I would say for some of you, is because you have not done your homework. Well, there's no more excuses for that, because we live in a day in society now that information is right at our fingertips. It requires effort, it requires diligence, but it also requires discipline. If you want to know the truth is right there. Pray and ask God to give you discernment. Pray and ask God to give you wisdom. Vet these candidates. Don't go by tradition. Go by the truth, because that's what we're known by. We're people that should be known by the truth. Sanctify them in the truth. That word is truth, Jesus said. So therefore, we're called to follow the truth wherever the truth leads. So I just wanted to put this information out. This was a pre-recorded broadcast. I wanted to have Colin on because his information, you won't find it in too many places. It's far and wide where we can get this information for those of us who love the truth, for those of us who want objective facts and information. Well, this channel and others, we're providing it. So I'll put his information at the bottom of the video description. Again, like this video, share this video, support the channel by means of the links below. Do not use Super Chat, ladies and gentlemen, if you decide to support this ministry. First and foremost, thank you again. I do appreciate that. But I encourage you to use the donation links below, because YouTube is very, they've become very oppressive when it comes to the truth and when it comes to this content. Hopefully and prayerfully, they won't flag this one and demonetize this one. But nonetheless, I'm going to continue to stand on the truth and continue to put the truth out there as much as I can. And if those of you who support the truth and love the truth want to support this channel, do that by clicking the links below the bottom of this video. All right. Anyway, that is my time. I do thank you all so much for yours. Y'all know the drill. Whatever you do, do all to the glory and honor of God. God bless.
It's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen.
Mama, I love you. P.O.P. all the time. Right, these all good pimps, boy, baby.
All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
These